Hey, this is Ben Tate for CG Tuts, and in this tutorial we're going to be modeling this high-res car tire in Max. And if you did my previous car rim tutorial, this will kind of be a follow-up to that, and this is the rim that we did in the first part here. Alright, so we're going to start out by modeling a small piece of tileable tread pattern. Alright, and that's it actually down here. And then we'll look at getting that from a small piece into a full strip of tread that we can later modify into the tire shape. Okay. Then we'll look at a way to create the sidewalls of the tire, and finally we'll do some quick UV mapping on the sidewall, and I'll show you how to apply a bump map to get this kind of side detail here. Alright, and these are a few screenshots of this tutorial down here, so let's jump into Max and get started. Okay, so here we are in Max, and what I have here is just a plane drawn out in the top view with an image applied to it, and I just have that image loaded into the diffuse slot of a standard material, and the self-illumination set to 100% to make things easy to see. Alright, let's just take a look at the image. So I just drew this out in Photoshop using the line tool, and it's a fairly simple tread pattern, nothing crazy. The dark gray areas here are the raised parts, and the light gray is the valleys in between. So I'll include a link where you can take this image if you want to follow along using the specific one, or if you have your own tread pattern that you want to do, you can use that, and you can also find some decent ones on Google. Alright, so you'll notice that we only have half of it drawn out here, and that's just because obviously both sides of the tire will be symmetrical, so we really only need to model one half, and then we can just mirror it over to get the full tread strip. Right, so I'm just going to be using this one to model against. So let's get going, and the first thing we're going to do is just go into the top view, and let's zoom in a bit on this, and we're going to make this out of a plane. So let's go into the create panel and just drag one out, and we'll start from here, and let's just drag this over to the other end. Alright, something like that. And we really don't need these segments here, so let's just right click these spinners to make this a 1 by 1, and let's change the color of it as well. Okay, and then we'll right click and let's convert this to editable poly, and we're going to toggle see-through on with Alt X, and let's see, let's go into Vertex, and let's just pull these guys over to the end, and we're going to need to subdivide this a bit, so let's just add some edges. So it's going to select these two edges here and do a connect, and we'll just move that edge down, and we'll line it up with this edge on the blueprint. Okay, and we'll add another one here and line it up, and one more at this side. Alright, then we'll go into Vertex and let's just grab these two end guys, and we're just going to move those straight down, and we'll grab the 4 at this side and let's move these straight up. Alright, just like that. So that's the basic shape we're looking for, and now we'll subdivide it a little further and add these other edges in the middle here. So let's do the vertical ones first. So let's do another connect here. Make sure you're on edge when you do that, and we'll just slide this edge down and line it up. Okay, with this one here, and we'll do another one, and we're just going to do one at a time here. Alright, so right there, and we need a couple more at the top. And one more here. Alright, so that takes care of the vertical ones, then we'll start doing the horizontal ones. So let's just grab an edge at the end here, and we'll do a ring and a connect. And we'll just slide that down, and we'll line it up with this top edge here. And okay, and we'll repeat the process here, ring and connect. And we'll line that one up with the bottom edge along here. And then the two in the middle. Let's bring this guy down here. And the last one, ring and connect. Alright, So that's what we have. So now that we have our edges laid out, we're going to go into Polygon, and we're just going to select these polygons here, and these ones, anywhere that the dark gray is. Alright, so just like that. And we'll do an extrude on these, and we'll bring that up, say about 30 or so, and OK. And let's go around the front here, and actually before we do that, let's go over here, and we'll grab this polygon here and the one on the other side, and we're just going to delete those two. We don't need them. And then we'll come around the top side here, and we'll go into edge, and let's just select all the edges along the front row here. Alright, and we'll also select the three edges around the opening, so we have the full strip here. Right, and in top view we're just going to hold shift, and we're just going to drag that out and line it up. Okay, like that. Alright, then we'll come over onto the outside of the tread here. And we're going to go back into poly, and let's select this polygon here and the one on the front. Okay, so just those two. And we're going to extrude these in, and let's do that, say, -40 or so. And OK. Alright, and that gave us a couple of extra polygons here, so let's just delete those. So we're going to select the outside one and the front one. Or the side one, sorry. Alright, so just the two on each piece, and we'll delete those. And now let's go into Vertex, and we'll go into Target Weld, and let's just weld this vert here to the top, and this one to this one, and the same thing on this side, this guy to this guy, and this one to this one. Alright, so we have this angle going down here. And now let's go back into edge, and let's select these edges here, these four. Alright, and we're just going to go into the left view and zoom in, and we'll just hold shift, and we're just going to drag those down on the Y and line the edge up with these edges here. Okay, just like that. Then we'll go back into Vertex, and we're just going to select these two verts here, and we'll open up the weld box and just make sure that you have a difference of one here, so we know it's welded for sure. Okay, so we'll do that one there, and we'll come over here, grab these two, and we'll weld those. Alright, so just like that. Alright, now we'll go into the front view here, and let's make sure you have ignore back facing turned off, and we're just going to grab these verts here, okay, right through those. We're just going to move those down slightly, alright, something like that, and then we'll move these middle ones here down a little bit more, and we'll also pull these top ones in just a bit, just to give this a bit of an angle, like so, and we'll take these two, or these ones here, in a little bit as well, just to have a bit of a slope on the side here. Yeah, we can do the same with these ones here. We'll just pull those back a bit. Okay, just to get a bit of an angle on there. And we can also maybe pull these ones here down a bit. And maybe back. Okay, so just like that. Alright, and I think we'll bring these just a little bit further down. Okay, so just a slight angle on this one, and slowly rolling it into what will be the side of the tire. Okay, so now let's go down here again, and we're going to go back into edge, and we're going to select this side edges again here. Alright, just these 6. I'm just going to shift drag those down on the Z just a bit, like that. And in the front view, we're just going to move that out to kind of match the angle of this face here. Okay, so something like that. Alright, so let's go back into the front view. And make sure you have ignore back facing turned off, and we're just going to drag through all of these edges here. Okay, we don't want to touch these ones over here, just these ones here. And we'll also just select these ones on the side here. Okay, so pretty much everything from the bottom up. Okay, like that. And we really don't need these ones over here, so we can deselect these edges. Let's turn on ignore back facing. I'm just going to hold Alt and just click on these ones to deselect them. Alright, and the one over here. And I think we'll select this guy as well here in this little groove, and we'll deselect these two. Okay, so we really want just the corners selected, as well as around the tops of all these extrudes. Alright, and we'll just leave these two selected, as well as the ones on the inside. Okay, and we can leave these ones here, and we'll just deselect these ones over here on the middle of this piece. Okay, so just like that. So pretty much the outlines of all the boxes. Alright, and now we're just going to chamfer this down. Let's open up chamfer, and we'll do a amount of about 3 or so, just to round this over a bit. And okay. And we're not going to worry about any of the triangles or n-gons here. We're not going to be turbo smoothing this, so that really won't cause us any problems. We'll just leave it. Okay. Right, so let's get out of edge here, and we really don't need our blueprint anymore, so let's just select that, and we'll just hide it. Or you can delete it if you want. Okay, so that's what we have so far. And one thing to note when you're modeling a tread pattern like this is you want to make sure that you have a vert on, if you have a vert on this side, you want to make sure you have a corresponding one on the opposite edge, or the opposite outside edge. Okay, so that this is pretty much a tileable piece. If it's not tileable, you'll never be able to clone it and weld it into a finished strip. Okay, so always make sure that you have it corresponding verts on both sides, and that the lines are pretty much parallel, so they'll fit together properly when you make your clones. Alright, so that's something that's essential that you need to keep in mind. Alright, so in the top view here, I'm going to turn back on the grids for a second, and I'm just going to move this over to the side, and I just want to line the end edge here up with the center grid line, just like that. Okay, and then we'll go into the hierarchy panel, and we'll click effect pivot only, and then we're going to right click on the move tool, and we're just going to zero out the X spinner. Alright, so the pivot point will be at the center of the world, and then we'll close that and turn that back off. Okay, and now we're going to go up to mirror, and we're going to choose X and a copy. Alright, and okay. So this will be our full tread strip. So let's attach them together. Alright, and we'll just weld up that center edge. So turn off ignore back face and just drag through the center edge if you want. And you can see we have 14 verts selected here, so we're just going to weld this, and we want to go up on this until we have a difference of 7 down here. Okay, so like that, and okay. And one more thing to do before we start cloning this around, we're just going to round this over a bit more. So in the front view, I'm just going to put a bend modifier on this, and we're going to do an angle of about 20, or say let's do 25, and we want to do that on the X axis. Alright, just so this has a bit of a rollover. And I think that should be fine. So with that bent, we're just going to right click and convert this down to a poly to collapse the stack back into just an edit poly. Alright, so that's our finished tread strip there. And now we can start cloning it. So back in the top view, let's go into the hierarchy panel, click Effect Pivot Only again, and we're just going to move the pivot point up a bit to about the center of this, and that'll just help us line up our clones. Alright, so just move that to the center and then turn the button back off. So we're just going to zoom in here, pretty close. Okay, and then we're going to go up to the Move tool, and we're just going to hold down Shift. We're going to drag a copy up on the Y, alright, and just move that up. And we want to get the bottom edge of this piece lined up with the top edge of the first piece as close as we can. So if you can get the edge here on top of each other, that's what you're looking for. Alright, and make sure you have copy here, and we're going to do about 70 or so copies of this, and okay. Alright, so I'm just going to make sure that that's all lined up at the other end. Sometimes in Max, when you do copies that way, it'll have a bit of offset as it gets farther away from the first piece, but that looks pretty good there. Alright, so now we have one pretty big piece of tread here, but they're all still separate objects, so we're going to need to attach these together. So with that piece still selected there, I'm going to go into the Modify panel, and I'm going to open up the attach box, and we're just going to hit all and attach. Alright, and now let's go into Vertex, and we're going to do Control A to select all the verts, and then we're going to open up the weld box again. And if you got those edges right on top of each other when you did your first piece there on the clone, 0.1 should be enough to weld all the verts. So I'm going to try that right now, and then we'll go in here and zoom in. Alright, I'm just going to select one of the verts here. We're just going to pull that around to see if it's welded, and it is. Okay, so if one's welded, then they all should be welded for you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just go back into the hierarchy panel, and we'll click Pivot Only, and let's just center that to the object and turn that back off. Alright, now we'll go into the Modifier panel again, and we'll put another bend modifier on this, and we want to do 360 on the angle, and let's do that on the Y axis, and we'll do the direction -90. Okay, and if you have any faces facing the wrong way, just change this from -9 to 90 to make sure that all the normals are facing out. Okay, and you can see we have a bit of a gap here at the bottom, so we're just going to have to adjust the bend angle a little bit more. So let's zoom in here. I'm just going to go up on this until they get close together. Alright, like that. And we really just want these two edges to be on top of each other if we can get that. So let's just take this down a bit. Alright, so they're pretty much on top of each other. So 365.43 for me. Yours might be different, but just try to get the edges on top of each other. Alright, so now that's bent into a circle. We're going to right click and collapse this back down to editable poly. And now we still need to weld this seam up here, so let's go back into Vert, do Control A again, and we'll weld this one more time. And we'll just go up on that a bit. Okay. You don't want to go too high, else you'll have other verts snapping together. Alright, so just enough to get this into one edge. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is start modeling out the sidewall of the tire. So let's just zoom in here a bit, and we're going to go into border, and we're just going to select the border on this one side. Okay, and that should select the edge all the way around for you. If you see any of the red edges going into the tread, that means you missed some welds. So just select all the verts and just up the weld a little bit until that takes care of it for you. Alright, so we're just going to select this one border around the whole thing. And I'm going to go into the left view. And we're just going to hold shift and scale this in. Okay. And depending on what kind of tire you're modeling, you'll have to adjust how thick this is going to be. If you're doing a low profile tire for, say, a sports car or something, you'll probably want to leave it pretty thin like that. If you're doing just a regular tire, you'll probably have to bring it in a little bit more. So we'll do something like that maybe. Alright, and with the border still selected, let's go into the front view. And we're just going to move this out a bit. Alright, something like that. Just slightly. And then we'll come in here and we'll go to edge, and let's just grab one of these edges here. We'll do a ring on that, and let's do a connect. And we'll do 2 segments, no pinch, no slide, and OK. And we're just going to move these edges out in the front view as well. And we'll come out past the border we just dragged out, just so this goes out and comes back in to give the tire a bit of a bulge. Alright, so something like that. Okay. And you'll notice that these edges look faceted, but that's okay, we won't worry about that. Later on we'll put a smooth modifier on here, and that should take care of that for us. Alright, so we're just going to leave it like that. And to get the other side in here, we're just going to actually cut this in half and do a mirror just to make sure that both sides are perfectly symmetrical. Alright, so let's zoom into the middle here. And I'm just going to select the edges on this seam here on the right side. So we'll select the 2 top ones and the one on the inside and the one on this side. Alright, and we'll do a loop on that. Alright, just so you have it going all the way around this seam here. Alright, then we'll convert that to a vertex selection by holding control and clicking vertex. And we're just going to actually delete that right out of there. And then we'll go into the front view. And make sure you have ignore back facing turned off. And we're just going to select the whole half of this tire. Right, and we'll just delete that. So we only have the good half left. And now we'll do another mirror. And we'll do a copy on X and OK. And then we'll go over to attach and we'll attach them together. And then back into vertex, and we'll do control A again, and one last weld. Alright, and we'll hit OK on that. So now that's one object again, and both sides are even. Okay, we'll go into edge, and we never chamfered these middle edges down, so let's just do that quick. So we'll just select the top 2 edges of each of these seams. Okay, so just like that. And we'll loop, and we'll chamfer that down. And let's do something like 4 or so on that. And okay. Alright, so that'll pretty much finish off the tread. And I'm not going to model any detail in on the sidewall of the tire. Normally you probably wouldn't want to do that just because the poly count can get out of control, and it's already pretty high, as you can see. What's most commonly done in that situation is just a bump map usually is used on the side to get some detail in there. If you have to get a really close-up render, then you might actually have to go in and model some details on the side. But usually a bump map is more than enough. Alright, so I'll just show you how to do that quickly. So let's jump over to Photoshop here for a second. And I have a quick bump map here that I made. And I'm not going to cover actually making this. This is just for demonstration purpose. Okay, you can see it's just pretty simple. and obviously you'd have to specifically make this for the kind of tire you're doing. But just to show you how to do it, I'm just going to use this for an example, and it's not exactly a masterpiece, but it should be good enough just to get the idea. Alright, so let's go back into Max, and normally you could use multi-sub object or something like that to apply the bump map to the outside of the tire, and then cylindrical map the tread maybe, and put a texture on there, or even just use a procedural material for that. But just to make things easy and for the sake of speed, I think I'm just going to detach the sidewall of this tire. Okay, so let's zoom in here. Let's go back into edge, and let's just select these three edges running down the sidewall. Right, and we'll do a ring on that, and then we'll control click polygon, so we have the whole side of the tire selected here. Okay, and I'm just going to go down in the modify panel and hit detach, and we'll just call that wall, and make sure you have these unchecked, these boxes, and okay. So I'll break that off as a separate object for us, and let's select it, and then we'll go into here and we'll put a unwrap UVW modifier on here. Okay, and let's open up the edit window, and we're going to go into polygon and do control A, and then we'll just go up to mapping and flatten mapping. Alright, and we'll just hit OK, and that'll pretty much planar map the sidewall for us. Okay, so let's just minimize this for a second. So let's just open up the material editor with M, and I just have my bump map loaded into the bump slot of just a standard gray shader. Alright, we just have default 30 bump on it, so we're just going to apply that to the sidewall, and we'll show it in the viewport here. Okay, and as you can see, it's not lined up yet, so let's go back into the UV edit window, and I'm going to go up to the pull down. We're just going to pull this down to pick texture, then I'm going to choose material editor, and we're going to pick our bump map, and OK, and that'll allow us to see it in the background, and you can see the resolution looks really crappy, but we just need to see where it is so we can just line this up a bit better. Alright, so I'm going to go to scale, and I'm just going to scale this down a bit just to line it up. Alright, so like that, pretty simple. We'll close that. Right, and there it is. So let's just turn that off in the viewport, and let's also just assign another gray shader just to the other part of the tire. Okay, and we'll also put a smooth modifier on the side here. So we'll just do that, and we'll do auto smooth, and then we can actually just copy the modifier and we'll paste it onto the tire. There we go. Alright, so that should smooth out that faceting on both sides. And we're not going to worry about attaching the other side of the tire. That would be on the inside of the car. You'd never see it, so we'll just leave it attached. There's really no reason to break that off and bump map it. You really just need to do it on the outside. Right? And I'm also not going to pull in the inner border here. If you wanted to do that, you could just select the border and just shift drag it in to give this some thickness, but normally you can get away without doing that because the rim would hide it. Alright, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Alright, so let's actually fit this onto a rim just to get a better idea of what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to select both these pieces here, and we're just going to group them, and we'll just call that tire, and OK. And we'll also go into the hierarchy panel, and we're just going to center the pivot point. Okay. And I actually have a rim in here that's hidden, so let's just unhide that. Alright, and there it is there. And if you did my rim modeling tutorial, this is the rim from that. Okay. So now we're going to go up here to the move tool, and we're just going to zero out the spinners, alright, to align it to the origin, which is where the rim is. And then we'll go into left view, and as you can see, it's far too big. So we're just going to scale it down. Alright, so let's bring it down a bit. Alright, and as you can see, the rim is a lot wider than the tire. So we're just going to scale the tire a bit on the x-axis. Alright, something like that. And we just want to get it behind the lip here on the rim. Something like that should be good. And let's also turn our bump map back on just to see if it's clipping behind this lip. Alright, so let's show that in the viewport again. And it is a little bit behind it, so let's scale it out a little bit more, just slightly. Okay, we'll do something like that. And I think that should be fine. Alright, so that's pretty much our finished tire model. But let's just do a quick render so we can see what the bump map actually looks like on the tire. Okay. So I'm just going to throw some lights in here quickly and do just a quick render before we finish off this tutorial. So just bear with me for a second. And I'm going to do this pretty fast, so I'm not going to really go over setting it up, alright? Alright, so let's just throw a quick light in here. And I'm just going to use V-Ray for this just so we can get some GI in the scene. And we'll also apply our gray shader to the rim. Okay, so we'll do a quick render and see what we have. And I'm just going to pause this for a second because it's going to take a few. Alright, so here's the finished render. And you can see the bump maps actually coming out pretty good. And that's definitely a good technique to use, and it's a lot faster than actually having to model these details in. Okay, and one thing to keep in mind when you're making a bump map is try to use slight variations in your shades of gray and white, just so you get some variation in the depth of the bump. Okay, and the most important part of modeling a tire this way is to make sure that you get your first tread strip laid out the way you want and chamfer down the edges, and also make sure that it is tileable, and it's essential that it's tileable, else you'll never be able to weld the copies together. So pretty much what that means is that the top edge and bottom edges are symmetrical, so you have even points that can be welded. Okay, so keep that in mind for sure when you're laying out tread patterns. Alright, so I guess that'll about do it for the tire modeling tutorial, and I hope you found some of this information useful. And I guess that'll about do it, so thanks for watching.